The Women's Six Nations Show on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, a proud supporter of the Irish women's rugby team. We all belong to the team of us.
Yes, indeed. You're very welcome along to this week's Women's Six Nations show. It has been 1 week in the books, possibly to forget from an Irish perspective, but France are in Musgrave Park on Saturday and a chance for Ireland to put things right against one of, let's be honest, the tournament favourites. We're joined today to look ahead to the weekend's action by Alison Miller and Fiona Hayes. Good evening to you both.
Well, how are you?
Not too bad. Listen, I don't want this to be a wake, all right, because that's kind of almost what the last week or so has felt like to a degree. So we will start on something positive. Fiona, listen, we'll start with you first because I know you picked out your team of the week there for us. I want to start with the backs because the thing that jumps out to me is how impressive Italy must have been against France last week for them to get two inclusions in that backline.
Yeah, I thought they were quite impressive. Now, they probably had a few handliners a couple of times inside the 22, but defensively against France, I thought the backs put in a massive shift. Line speeds, they were killing the ball. There was some huge turnovers. Beats Strigoni, her kicking was excellent as well from 13. So they're definitely on the up. What they do need to improve is is how they finish off their tries, and you can see as the competition goes on, they'll definitely be working in that area. But I mean, they were so good to watch at times against France.
Just to run you through that back four, I guess, is where we've got Chloe Raleigh of Scotland, a full back. On the wings, then we've got Claudia MacDonald and the aforementioned Auro Muzzo. And then in midfield, it's Beatrice Rigoni and Gabrielle Vernier of France in the centre. And then at out half, we have Holly Aitchison from England, and she's joined there by Ciara Bevan of Wales. What, from an English perspective, with the performances of MacDonald and Aitchison, stood out for you, Fiona?
Oh, Claudia MacDonald is just lighting it up at the minute. She's doing really well at club for Exeter as well. And I highlighted her last week as someone to watch on the back of her World Cup performance. You know, she's a player that was told she'd probably never play again. She had a really bad neck injury and she went from scrum half to wing. I presume there isn't, Ali, know this, there isn't much contact out there in the wing. Is there, Ali? You can enjoy life out there. She's going to kill me. But
can I interject there? That is completely untrue.
I'm only messing, but she's just been electric. She'd a few tries for England in the World Cup. It's her defensive skills and her presence has been really good, and definitely a find for that English management.
Then into the forwards as well. Perhaps unsurprisingly, we'll start with the front row because it was an area in which Wales were so impressive last weekend against Ireland in Cardiff.
Yeah, and you have to give a huge shout out to Pilatu. I mean, 19 years of age. You know, it's actually funny. I talked about her last week and she spent a lot of her time with Gloucester in the second row. She's kind of a second row, back row, but obviously her size, her ability, Wales have got her into that front row, and no better place than the lovable tight head prop to get in there. And she was absolutely immense around the park against Ireland. She done serious damage at scrum time, but it's her big carries and the speed she can pick up and those carries and footwork that has really excelled this year. We saw like a little bit of her. She came on and got her first cap in Ireland last year in the first game, and she's just kind of come on since then, and she's someone that's going to be huge for them going forward. And I had to Kelsey Jones in at hooker. I mean, none of the throws were absolutely blasted to the back, but I thought she had the presence to get in, do things quickly and get their maul formed, and she was ever present in getting that pack going to the line-out, which destroyed Ireland at times. And Deshay, the loose head from France, I had to give her a mention because we're going to see exactly what that French scrum can offer. And last week against Italy, they absolutely tore them off the park scrum-wise. They were going back 10 metres at times. Yeah,
the second row then we've got Mane Fella and Poppy Cleal of England. Cleal, perhaps no big surprise, she was fantastic again. Tell us a little bit about Mane Fella.
Yeah, she was just really good for France. You know, she's kind of come into the squad, and obviously you've got the captain as well partnering her in the second row, but she just was exceptional in the line out, and I thought she was excellent around the pitch. She's kind of a smaller back row than second row than the French would normally use. They like they're stocky, but she's very agile. She gets up nice and quick, and with the loss of Medusa Fall, as I should say, my Limerick accent coming in there, but Medusa Fall last year for France was absolutely immense in the second row, and she got injured and wasn't. And I thought Falou had just come in and took over that and was ever present around the pitch.
Into the back row then, and you know, a little bit of light from an Irish perspective. Dervla Nicovorge manages to get in there.
Yeah, I had to get her in there. I mean, I know she got the yellow card and only came on as well in that second half, but she just she brought the aggression, the attitude. She the quick tap penalty that eventually led to the try. I suppose I've seen her working for Munster this year, and we now know she's going to start for Ireland at 8. And she's just a player that gets involved in everything. And she, you know, I talked about the line speed of Ireland, and I thought in that second half that she was leading that from the front coming up, as well as Niamh Jones. But it was good to see her get in, and she had huge importance in the few minutes that she got on the pitch, and I thought she made a massive change to that back row.
And joining her in there as well, Marley Packer of England and Elisa Giordano of Italy. Again, another area in which Italy managed to impress you last week.
Yeah, they turned over France 6 times last week. You know, they were, as I said, the backline were really good, and I think they had 2 turnovers in the backline, but the Pac Giordano in particular had a couple of turnovers around that breakdown, and it's something I think Ireland will have to target this week, because you could see in the first 20 minutes Italy really went after it, and when they slowed down that French ball, and Giordano in particular was getting involved in everything, getting her hands into that ruck, and you know, you can get in there for a couple of seconds and give that referee a little look and you'll get away with it, and they just done it perfectly, and they spotted when France runners were on their own, and they were in over the ball, and just her carries, and she's another person Italy go to in the line out as well, and I thought she was quite good when they eventually got her up in the air. They had a few shaky lineouts, but when they got her up it was nice and quick.
Ali, I want to bring you in here because as I mentioned, I don't want this to be a wake for, you know, what's gone on again in Cardiff and what might to come pardon me, against France on Saturday. From an Irish perspective, what positives? Because I know hearing Dan O'Brien and hearing Hannah O'Connor talking yesterday, there were positives, particularly in the second half performance, that Ireland can certainly take from that into Saturday's game at Musgrave Park.
Yeah, like I think Diana came on and played really, really well. I thought she controlled the game very well. So it's positive to see that from the back of her performance on Saturday that she's getting a start. I think like she's got a huge range on her kick, and I think Ireland will have to use that at the weekend. And like she obviously started in Japan, so it'd be nice to see her getting those opportunities. She's only 19 and that she can develop, but I think she put some nice little kicks through at times in the second half. And that's what we kind of needed to do, I suppose, in the first half. We weren't doing that, and Wales' line speed was so aggressive, and we probably needed to keep them a little bit more honest. I know that was very difficult in the conditions, but Dana came on and put some nice little kicks through, got us good position, and you know, varied the game and got that attack running. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do. I think she had the longest range kick of the weekend at 47 metres, and look, she's got her pedigree as a Gaelic footballer. I know she showed promise in Carlow as a Gaelic footballer as well. Not that we even need to mention that, but look, she's got that big boot, and I think, you know, for a long time, obviously Niamh Briggs playing for those Irish teams had that massive boot, and it cannot be underestimated in women's rugby. It's one of those areas that it's probably we need to improve in the women's game, is our kicking, and to have someone that has that. It's only one part of her game, but it's a huge thing. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what she can do at the weekend. It's
a building block, isn't it, Fiona? That I think is probably necessary, judging on what we saw, particularly in the first half last week.
Yeah, and look, I know she came off on, and there was less probably pressure on her, but I've seen her up in Irish camp, and she has this ability to always look relaxed on the ball, and I think that's what you like in your 10s. You know, pressure is on them, but they just their body, everything about them looked relaxed, and I thought that building block, when you get a penalty and you know that you can go 40 metres down a pitch, or you know that she's going to vary up that attacking line, that gives you a little bit more space. So because that line speed from Italy or from Wales, as Ali said, had to check itself when it came on, because you don't know if she's going to dink, you don't know if she's going to grub her. She changed that game, and that in turn changes how other teams will defend you. And I think if we can see France will go into that game, they always like to bring line speed, but if she can keep them honest in the first few minutes, it will change up exactly how they're coming at Ireland. Ali,
something that was put to her yesterday was that this will be her first experience of Six Nations rugby. Like, obviously she got those caps on the tour of Japan. How big a difference can it be making a step up from maybe getting a couple of appearances on a tour to heading into the blood and thunder of Six Nations action?
Yeah, like first and foremost, a lot more media attention, a lot more attention on her and the team. And I think, like, if we're going to call a spade and be honest, that's what I am. So, there's a massive step up from that Japan team to these teams like France and England and even Wales have improved than that Japan team in the Six Nations. So, yeah, like it's going to be pressure there. But as Fiona said, the one thing I do love to see about her, she is relaxed. She enjoys her rugby. You can see it in her. She she'll come on and she has that confidence. She looks relaxed. She is always, if you look at Dan O'Brien when she plays rugby, she is always looking for that offload and it's comfortable for her. It's never forcing. It's always just looking. She has the options and she has, I won't say it's not a swagger, it's not an arrogant thing, but you can see it in her. She is just like, she's controlling it and she's enjoying it. And I think she'll thrive on the fact that it's a Six Nations and it's a big competition. I think, like I'm from around Carlow and they've been flagging this girl for my good friend Ciara Kinch, give you a shout out, Kinchy, had been flagging her for years, and had been saying to me, Alison, you need to look at this girl, you need to see her. This is years and years ago, and I remember coaching her in Tullow Community School as a probably 13-year-old and just seeing this girl has something, just the skill level and her control and her understanding. So I think this is what Dan O'Brien has been wanting to do since she's very young. She's been out in Tullow Rugby Club kicking with her father for years, so I'm told. So I think this is her dream, and she's one of these, we're at the stage now where she's one of these girls that's grown up wanting to play for Ireland and looking at the Six Nations. So I think she'll enjoy every single minute of it and go out there and show us what she's capable of.
Is there something in the water down there that makes you a slightly more relaxed Six Nations player? Because no, but seriously, there seems to be a little bit more of a just a kind of laissez-faire attitude towards approaching it, and that ultimately that it's not the be all and end all, that there are other things out there in life, and it kind of lends itself to being a slightly calmer player on the field.
Possibly it might be like, I'm country, we're country.
Are you?
I love what Andy Farrell said actually before the Grand Slam game, and he summed it up. It's just a game of rugby at the end of it, and these players are under pressure and to put in a big performance. But at the end of the day, it's something that players choose to do and enjoy. So, look, possibly, it's a different mentality that you enjoy that. Like, she's grown up playing, she's got that, I will say, that tough country, thing that us in the country that we have. Sorry, Fiona, you're Limerick City. You don't have it.
We have a different one.
You have a different level. And there is that level of growing up playing your sports, enjoying the hardship of it, and I mean that in a the most possible positive way, that you enjoy getting out there and training and getting stuck in, and it's that mentality thing. And I think if you talk to so many of our finest sports women, especially more so women, possibly, I could be wrong on this, do come from these small country areas. And yeah, maybe it's just a thing. I can't really answer that, but there's a hardiness to her that will serve her well, I think.
I think you've answered it pretty well. Fiona, do you want to make a case for the Townies?
No, I leave Ali off. I give her an awful doing for milking cows anyway when she was growing up. They've got that extra hardship, that little chip on the shoulder. Us in the city, we grow up with this spoon in our mouth. Yeah.
We'll move away from this debate because I feel it could degenerate very quickly.
Definitely.
It definitely could. Vicky Irwin's coming into the centre on Saturday. She's replacing Enya Breen. Enya's missing out now, obviously, through no fault of her own. It's a knee injury has ultimately scuppered her Six Nations season. And Vicky Irwin is coming in midfield. Will we suffer much of a degeneration in that area, Fiona?
Yeah, look, obviously that was one of the first things when I heard Enya was injured, came to my head straight away. We've no out now 12. We talked about when the sevens were there, and we won't go into that debate, but there was girls that could come in and out, whereas I felt when looking at the squad, Enya was probably the only out 12 that was fit at the minute that was in that squad. So it was a little shock to the system, but I've seen a couple of games, like Vicky has played 13 a lot for Sale Sharks. Sharks, and they speak very highly of her. She was in Ulster, you know, she's played her rugby and decided to move over to the Premiership, and that will stand her in these games. I mean, she's playing high level competition week in, week out. She's held her starting spot with Sale Sharks. She's on the team sheet every time I take a look at, because I'd always check up on the Irish players over there. So although she's not an out and 12, I think with Dana, I'm probably a little bit worried about the connections there, because they haven't been together and they haven't kind of, more so defence than attack. I'd be a little bit worried around that. But look, I'm sure they spotted that early in camp. They would have known Enya's injury straight away and would have got Vicky in there, and they would have been feeling each other out all week and how they're going to play together. So defensively, I'm a slight bit worried. But for Vicky, I think she's capable. As I said, she's been playing that high level, and you know, it's exciting for these guys to come in. It's either sink or swim, I suppose, is what is kind of the situation where they're at now, and they have a lot to prove after last week, because no Wake talking here, but they were pretty disappointed. A lot of talk was around what they haven't had, but the players themselves would be disappointed with their performance. And I've seen all these guys play, and I know there is a lot more in the tank. You can look at the outside stuff, but the basic skills weren't there, and they know that, and they will go out this week, and I think they'll be chomping at the bit against this French team, and especially the backs. I think they're going to have a crack at this French backline.
Would you share the optimism there, Ali?
Like, I would share the optimism in that the girls will try and fix those things that they didn't do well, or just even, you know, the level of intent or energy around, you know, defence and things that you don't need experience for. Like, you just need to have a bit of dog in you, and you need to have a little bit of aggression. So they'll bring that because they didn't have that. And that's got nothing to do with how long you're playing. That's an attitude thing. So they'll definitely can fix that attitude. I think France probably are a team that didn't play particularly well. They've got huge talent, and their back three. And now when you're trying to read the French updates, and my French isn't very good, it's hard to know. We were discussing earlier, is Boulard out? Is she injured, or is she just not? Did you find out, Fiona? We were talking about this earlier. I'm not sure, but I'm just looking at the French team. I would really rate Banet. She would be one of my favourite wingers. Menage at 13, Vernier, Bougard, the other winger. They have a very good back line if they can get ticking. So I think a big thing for Ireland is that 10, 12, 13 channel against Wales wasn't coming up at all. We were just kind of moving laterally and not coming up. So I think that'll be a big area that we need to shut down that French attack, because they are really skillful and they're physical and they can move that ball, and that back three and their centre partnership are dangerous. So I think if the girls can try and nullify even just the space they're giving them, we gave Wales far too much respect and space in the centres and 10-12 channel, that if we can cut that down early, put more line speed on and organise our defence and around those defensive things, I think, and make France's life difficult. The French can be sometimes their own worst enemies if things aren't going. So what we want to do is basically really annoy them that they're going to be making mistakes, and then you'll sometimes see the real character of the French. Can we really get inside them and annoy them? And I think if we can do that, and we can bring a bit more physicality, but I would probably on paper say the French backline would be more dangerous, I think, in attack than our Irish backline. So we've got to be innovative about how we get on top of them.
Yeah, and just on that, sorry, Richie, just on that as well, because I done the game. So, that's why there's two Italian players in there, because they brought that line speed. And I'll be honest with you, that French backline looked exceptionally average last week. The handling errors were massive, but that's got to do with the Italian line speed, the dog in them, the coming up, them putting under pressure. I think Menage at 13 had maybe 4 or 5 knock-ons. Vernier was a class act all game, but once the ball got past her, that Italian Muto, they all rushed up and they just seemed to put massive pressure on France. So although they have that je ne sais quoi and that talent and that beautiful, if you go down to the nitty gritty of it, if Ireland can bring what they didn't bring last week, you will definitely put them under pressure. I'm not going to say that they're going to come away with a win, but I think they'll be very, very happy with their performance if defensively they can put a step up and put pressure under France.
Ali, when you talk about...
you made a good point, about Menage. Yeah. she's not your, I think she's probably more of a winger, and she's quite a physical winger, and she's a strong ball carrier. But I don't like her handling and her hands and her passing ability wouldn't probably be up there with some other centres in the competition. So like that, Italy, she had those handling areas. If we can put pressure on her, I think we've seen before in different competitions that her handling can let her down. So that's maybe some area that we can go and target. I think it's interesting what you're talking about, Italy on a whole different level. Italy have always had the potential there and have played some beautiful rugby and probably weren't very well supported by their union. And now that they are becoming professional, we can see what they're capable of. So they'll be one just to watch, I think, over the next few years to see where they can go, because they have very, very good players and they play a good style of rugby. But I think Fiona's 100% right about that. If we can just, get in there and try and make them look ordinary, and that's when I think their mentality will show whether they'll I can't think of the word. I'm just going to move on.
Well, when you talk about annoying them, is that just a case of being quick off the line, or is it a case of adding a little bit more in there? Do you add in a little bit of gamesmanship? Do you just want to slow things down in that respect, or when between plays, or how do you go about that? How do you go about needling and annoying a team of that caliber?
I think all of the above, and I mean, you got to be smart and you got to hit them hard, and it's not being dirty. It's not being bringing the game into disrepute or any of those things. It's just being smart. It's as you said, it's even if you're an attack and you get a chance to clear them out of the ruck and clear them hard, or if you're tackling someone, you're holding them down the ground a little bit longer maybe than you should, and you're making sure that you're there, and you're keeping them on the ground, and you're getting it back up on the line, but you're keeping them on the ground, and it's getting up hard, it's hitting them hard, and it is those things. You got to do that. It's a game of physicality, and if you can get inside their head physically, but also a little bit of niggle stuff, that can all, in a game where so much is in your head as well, to get up for things. 100% you do those things.
I was listening to the players as well.
Fiona?
I was listening to the players during the week, Fiona, and they alluded to that in the respect that they mentioned that training was pretty hard going, and they mentioned that it was pretty physical and pretty dogged. And I don't think it was necessarily just a kind of this is what we're going to do post Wales to try and shake this out of our systems. I think they probably have a bit of a game plan in mind to try and irritate the hell out of this French side.
Absolutely, and that's what's needed. That's what I said when the game finished. I said they better get back to the paddock and work hard physically. I know you've got to look after the bodies and all that kind of stuff, but from how they put their bodies on the line in that game, you knew they were disappointed when they come off that pitch. So you get into that training ground and you absolutely batter each other around, and me and Ali know that. And you finish, you feel delighted with yourself, you get your rest, but when you're out there, it has to be physical, because we know France in particular pride themselves on their physicality. They think they are so physical and so superior than everyone else. But if you can get into their heads, and I would imagine Ireland will do that. I think they were very passive around the breakdown against Wales, almost looked shell-shocked at how efficient Wales were in cleaning them out. So now they've got to look at that video and see how they can get in there, see how they can slow down that ball, because with that, as we said, the French backline, when they connect, they can be exceptionally dangerous, or when they click. So if they can slow down the ball, be very physical, lie on the wrong side, you'll get away with a few things. All you have to do is look at the ref and constantly ask, am I okay here? She'll tell you, or he'll tell you, take your hands away, and you get a few extra seconds. So it's about the smartness about playing like that, and I'd imagine they all went at that at camp and put themselves on the line, and they, as a coaching staff, you want them going in feeling positive after the week they've had. And I think absolutely going out and blasting one another, it always gets you into, well, I don't know, that was me anyway as a prop. You'd always be in great form going into the next game anyway.
But you're right, Fiona, and small things like even if in our attacking ruck, we're holding someone into the ruck there and not letting them out, and small things that do irritate you as a player, and just those, every little thing like that will add up. And I think that's really, really important. And that doesn't take talent. It just takes your mentality. And I think we'll see a massive switch in that. And I'm looking forward to seeing that switch with the girls, because it's there. As we said, we know these players and they're capable of doing it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that level of just simple word dog, and just see how it goes for them.
Are you looking for your kind of more experienced players in the squad? And they're let's be honest, there aren't too many massively experienced players within that Ireland squad. I think there's only 2 in the starting 15 that have 20 caps or more. But are you looking for those who have a little bit more experience to instill that kind of thing into the younger players and to instill that kind of, this is how we have to go about a game. If we do need to take it to the limits of the laws, then by all means do, especially when you're going up against a big side like this. And there are pains to say yesterday it's not damage limitation, but to a degree, you do have to use that in the back of your head.
Yeah, and look, I think it is up to the senior players. Some of the girls coming in, they're quite young, they're in an environment, they probably do it at club level, but you know, as you get up, there's a lot of talk about discipline and different areas, and it's trying to get that balance, you know, it's trying to understand what you'll get away with. It's about looking at the ref, it's about feeling out the game, it's learning early on, okay, I can do this, I can't do that, and you know, and you see that as the game goes on, they'll have reviewed the ref, they'll probably have focused on what they're hot on and what they're not on, and I think the senior players now have to stand up. They have to tell these girls, you go out there and you play your heart, be dogged, be rugged. And yeah, there is a talk about damage limitation. There has to be, but not obviously with the players. I mean, just in general, you're looking off the back of last week, you have to be honest. But that's where the defence can come into play. If you can get on top in defence, and I remember from years, like it's a very simple thing. And I remember it was with Tom Tierney when he first came into the Irish team, he had a very basic slogan: defence wins games. I know a lot of coaches say it, but you're kind of looking around going, okay, and it was 2015, the year we went on and won that Six Nations, but that was a very simple motto, and everybody was putting their body in the line, coming up, and as momentum built, it kind of kept in your head, and every little line break, every time the opposition came at you, it was in the back of your head. And it's an old cliche, but it really, if they can sort that out, it puts teams under massive pressure, and you get that extra edge then.
And Ali, it's a case of when you see with the small amount of caps that a lot of these players have, it's a case of instilling in them that this isn't, again, like you mentioned earlier on, it's not the be all and end all, but that we learn from these experiences and that you use them, and that when you do get to be a 20, 30, maybe 40 cap player, Lord willing, that they are able to pick up these knocks and move forward from them.
Yeah, and I think, like, they gotta hurt you. You got it, like, and I don't mean that but it's gotta bother you so much that it motivates you to do everything in your power to be a better player. And I think if you can use those, like other disappointments and, you know, last week, and to be a better player, that's ultimately what inspires you to want to get up the next day and do it all over again. And you know, and I know some of them are full time and some of them aren't, and some of them are in the Premiership, and some of them are doing those early morning gym sessions or conditioning, with all those things. Like, at the end of the day, it's to improve, and you got to use that hurt, and you got to use the disappointment, or, you know, you miss a tackle, like, you know, these things got to motivate you to be that ultimate competitor. If you look like someone like Johnny Sexton, for example, like, you can see just it's everything. And I know it's just a game, but at the same time, it's the girls are choosing to do this. They love it, so they want to be the best players that they can be, and then learn quickly. And you got to learn, like, you know, and you got to learn quick at this level, and especially in a Six Nations when you do not have much time between games, you got to learn quick. And I think the best players in the world are the ones, as Fiona said, it's sink or swim, and they kind of survive, and they come up and they adapt and they learn and they figure it all out. And I think that would be the true test of this group of players, that they'll go and do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing the development of these players and how they react, and you know, seeing, you will have some girls here that maybe won't be still here in 7 or 8 years, but you will see some girls here that are just starting off becoming really, really brilliant players in the future. And I'm just looking forward to seeing that development, that progression, and how they learn, because we've all been there at the start where you got your first cap and you're not sure if you'll ever get another one. You know, so I'm just looking forward to seeing that progression and who's got that real character and that bite about them. And, you know, it is exciting for them, even though they've got beaten well in that first game. They're playing in a game that's changing for the better with these professional contracts. So look, it's a tough game, but the best ones will adapt and learn and move on. And look, in this Irish team, and I think any Irish team for a long time, we don't play, well, we might now because we're professional and we're going on summer tours, But always was the case. We never had girls with huge amounts of caps, with the exception of the Lynn Cantwells and the Fiona Coughlin's that were playing for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Like, so 30 caps in an Irish team, we do compare it to England, but at the same time, that's probably a level of experience for an Irish team until we play more games.
Yeah. Listen, Ali and Fiona will be back with more on the Women's Six Nations show after this.
The Women's Six Nations show on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, a proud supporter of the Irish women's rugby team. We all belong to the team of us.
Yeah, welcome back. It's Richie here with you in studio. I'm delighted to say Ali Miller and Fiona Hayes are still with us on the line. On the Women's Six Nations show is with Vodafone, a proud supporter of the Irish women's rugby team. We all belong to the team of us. Fiona, earlier on, Ali brought us through some of that France backline, particularly Cyrielle Banet, particularly Caroline Boujard on the wings, and Marine Menage and Gabrielle Vernier in the centre, who you highlighted in your team of the week for last week. Where else can we expect France to hurt us, or from where else can we expect France to hurt us on Saturday?
Oh God! After watching the scrum against Italy last week, I think they're definitely, and probably they would have had a look at the Irish scrum, and they will definitely target that area, and maybe they'll try and maul us up the pitch as well. The French front row are absolutely super. They're physically strong, but their height in general, they get nice and low, and their connections just seem to be working. I actually think they're probably stronger than the English front row at the minute, just in terms of scrummaging wise. They've been absolutely super, even in the last World Cup, watching them as well, and they're similar to their male counterparts, that they'll have that kind of bomb squad that comes on around the 50 minutes that is absolutely no different than the girls that started. So that's probably an area they're going to look to target Ireland. As I said, Deshay was in, she was excellent at loose side. I suppose looking at our scrum last week, okay, so you know, with Sive McGrath and loose head, I thought she was good around the pitch at times. Scrum wise, she's a young child, 18 years of age. She went in there, probably wasn't the best time for her to start. I don't know, like, coaching would obviously make those decisions, but you know, she has the ability to be a really good player and an excellent scrummager. She probably just needs more time, and thrown in at that Six Nations isn't that time. But for her to come off the bench this week, I think she will have gained a lot from the video analysis of last week. It was just sheer height. There was another scrum where Wales tuned out and Ireland absolutely blasted them as well. So you know they have the ability to get that when they get low. So with Ireland change, and Linda de Jong is moved now to loose head where she started last season, and Christy Haney is in at tight head. I think she's absolutely an excellent scrummager. I think she'd really anchor that scrum. She's a big, strong tight head. She was kind of injured for the Interpros, so she didn't have a lot of game time behind her, and I'd say they were holding her off probably to get her a little bit fitter, but she will definitely counteract that. And I think Ireland will be looking in to improve their body height and get low and try and sustain that French pressure, because in watching what they done against Italy is they get the ball in, they'll hold it, and then they'll get a wave, and that's when they got go forward ball, and very similar with their maul. So I definitely think that's an area they're going to be looking at highlighting Ireland, but also Ireland know they're going to come at them there as well.
Yeah, Ali, it's perhaps no surprise that we end up with the front row that seemed to function a little bit better against Wales in the second half last week, starting this time around.
Yeah, look, I'm no front row expert, having been a former winger, but yeah, you could see the changes that the girls came in, and there's obviously been a few changes around the pack, and you see a different back row, and unfortunately our back row last week just weren't in the game. Really good players, all of those girls, but just unfortunately weren't in the game both sides of the ball. So looking forward to seeing that back row now, like, get on ball. We really need our back row to be like a nuisance, and to get in there and get involved. And like, I suppose last week we saw girls in the pack like not getting into defensive mauls when we needed them, and just a little bit more like know-how and a little bit more doggedness in around the back row, because they're such an important part of the game. And look, we'll need girls like Dorothy Wall is such like an impressive ball carrier when she gets going, and we probably didn't see that from Dorothy last week. And look, it was a team on the back foot, so looking forward to seeing her and put her influence on the game and get running at people. She's such a good ball carrier when she gets going. Looking forward to seeing Derv Nicovard at 8, but also looking forward to seeing those girls like be menaces around the breakdown and really try and frustrate France, that area, because that's probably something we were lacking last week. Our back row, just unfortunately, and we'll see those changes. Grace Moore coming in there at 7. So look, and I think credit to the subs last week. They came in, and that's all you can ask anyone that comes off the bench, is to come in and try and make a positive impact in that time they have. So look, girls have been rewarded for their impact, and that's what you like to see. That's what you need to see, and it puts pressure on those girls that did start that day, and that's what keeps competition alive in a team. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing that back row, seeing how they go this week.
It looks like an improvement, all right, Fiona, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, it's an improvement, but I think it's more kind of it's Greg and his coaching staff kind of laying the marker down, saying, look, you didn't play well, these guys did, they're going to get a shot now. And I think that's where we're at with the international rugby at the minute, is other than maybe 1 or 2 players have cemented their guaranteed place. It's very unusual to think, if you were looking at, just say, the men's squad, for instance, you'd probably look at 13 guaranteed spots. When you look at most games, maybe 2. But I think we're at the stage now with the women's game that there's probably only 1 or 2. And if you don't perform and someone else can come in and take that jersey off you, it looks like they're going by kind of the way that if they improve or they can lift their game, they hold on to that jersey. And that's what's good about this. It's like almost starting at scratch, that we can see all these players fight each other for that starting spot. And that's exactly kind of what you want. You want that fight on the pitch. You want it especially in the training pitch, so it can transfer to these big games. But look, Grace Moore is a girl that was kind of in and out, and I've watched her with Saracens this year, and Saracens have a lot of English players in their pack, and every week she's making that team sheet, be it they might shift her into second row, but in general, when she's playing alongside Marley Packer and she's sustaining her place, so she's obviously lighting it up in the Premiership, and she gets a chance and will have absolutely no inhibitions against these guys. And we saw what Derv did when she came on the last day. She can add a bit of aggro. The only thing, I know I talked about them going after the ball and stuff like that, but I do think they'll have to really watch their discipline and learn what they can get away with the ref as well, because we know sometimes some of these players, when you go after that ball too much, and I've seen it, and especially when Ireland played France last year, I think there was a lot of penalties given away in the breakdown, so they have to kind of find that balancing act.
And you have to figure that out very quick in a game, and you get a sense of the referee within the first few minutes. So it's like a sign of these players, can they figure that out and read that ref? And I'm not sure, have they analysed the ref, or they do that at the moment? Yeah, and like I'm sure they'll know what the ref is hot on, what the ref's not on, what they can I suppose bend the line a little bit to see what they can get away with. But Fiona's right, you got to have your discipline around the breakdown. We got to have them on the ball, but we got to, you got to pick your moments, and you got to find the right moments and really figure out that ref within the first 4 to 5 minutes and see what they're hot on.
It's like, Ali, it's a tough ask against this French side, and we are being realists here. So what would be a successful outcome from an Irish perspective on Saturday?
You got me there. Like, at the end of the day, they've nothing to lose. They've no pressure on them in terms of expecting a win. But like, I suppose we didn't score till was the 65th minute against Wales, and I think, like, what I would like to see is, I don't think we saw much in terms of our attacking shape, or even like penetrating the line and making line breaks, and just, our general attack. We were playing really deep, we were playing really lateral, and we were taking the backdoor option a lot of times without punching holes. So I think if we can, like, obviously improve our defence and, try and really enjoy, like, the girls gotta have to go out there and enjoy that defence. And I think when you're defending well, you enjoy it too. Like, you'll enjoy the physicality. But you'd like to see the team, like, putting together some nice phases of play where you can see what they're trying to do. I suppose last week we didn't see, I couldn't, I suppose, figure out what our shape was or what we were trying to do. And so success, I think, is, look, they've only had a week to try and evolve that attacking play a little bit, fix like, I know this, I'm not putting this into like a score line. What's the score line be? But for me, it's more about fixing the things that we didn't see, like the 10, 12, 13 channel, how we're defending, the girls. I think like it's been an issue for quite a number of years now, the last 3 or 4 years, defending a maul, like, line out driving maul. We just haven't that defended well. Like, we haven't done it well. So like to see those things, is there improvement in those areas? Is there an improvement in our general defensive shape? And especially being a back, seeing, that cohesiveness and the fluidity around the defensive line, and especially off stuff like scrum D and different things like that. So look, you'd like to see the girls get on the scoreboard at least 2 or 3 times. If that's been a bit optimistic, I don't know, but I think just seeing a general improvement in everything, not everything, like realistically they probably can only fix 2 or 3 things this week, and that's being smart about it. It's not being not ambitious. It's just being like, what can we fix this week? So a little bit more shape and attack, shape and D, and as I said, those things like we got punished at a defensive maul last week, so we can improve that. And I suppose Fiona will probably talk a little bit more about, like she did talk about the scrum getting their shape and getting their angles and getting a bit more, getting lower in it. So I haven't really answered that question in terms of what success, because
I think cohesion, is a probably good enough word for it.
Yeah, like cohesiveness in, defence and attack, and just seeing the players' characters. I'm looking forward to seeing, like, what I'm looking forward to seeing is, I made a good point, Fiona's making a good point about players coming in and getting their shot. I'm looking forward to seeing what players take that shot and like stand up and, are like, here, like, I want to be that 7 in this team, and I want to be that, whatever it is, the 8 in the team, or whatever position they're getting, and, performing under pressure. And I think that's how you will judge players when they get their opportunities and they're under massive pressure, that they perform. And that's a sign of a very good player, like.
And on the back of that, I think it'd be absolutely huge. You're looking, Ali's right, you're looking a bit more ambition in attack, but I think it'd be absolutely massive, Richie, if you could stop France from getting that bonus point win at home. If you could say that would prove that you've improved your defence and that you've worked really hard. And, France might win the game, but if you can stop them getting that extra point and you've had your systems in place, it's definitely an area of the game that you'd come off that lovely turf down in Musgrave Park feeling well and good. A few burns as well, but you'll feel great with yourself. I
saw that happen on occasion during the course of the under-20s championship. There was lads going down for rucks, and they were coming back up with bloody elbows, and I wasn't the better for seeing a lot of those under-20s games down there. Before you both go, I want to touch on the actual 7 stuff, because obviously the elephant in the room is that there are a clatter of Sevens players that will probably benefit this 15 side to no end during the Six Nations. But obviously, that's a conversation for another day. But what we have seen this week, Ali, is a change in head coach that seems to have come out of nowhere and seems to have been handled in a little bit of a less than brilliant way. Aidan McNulty announced on his LinkedIn, I think it was on Tuesday, that he was heading off for a gig in Munster. And that we're going to get, it took an hour or two later until the IRFU fully informed us that it's going to be Alan Temple-Jones who's taking charge there. Doesn't necessarily portray the system in the best of lights when you see that happening a couple of days out from a big tournament in Hong Kong.
Yeah, and like, to be honest, the girls are flying it. Like, they're absolutely performing so consistently all through the World Series. And like, what we want to see is them qualify for the Olympics and achieve their potential. And like, it's been a few years since I played 7, has been in that setup, but from watching them, they were playing fantastic rugby. They were enjoying it, huge depth there, playing brilliant rugby, putting it up to the world's best teams and consistently, and they're in a good position. And like, even for himself, I kind of feel like, he's done so much good work, and there's not much time left till, the qualification would be secured on a World Series. I obviously have other avenues to qualify. So yeah, like, to me it was unusual, and I'm sure the girls are disappointed. Like, Alan Temple-Jones was an S&C there. I came across him in my time, and yeah, it is unusual that was maybe the way they found out. Look, we don't know he's obviously seen an opportunity that he wants to pursue. But for disappointing for the girls to lose their head coach, you know, towards the end of something really like the most important times of their lives. And I think he was very popular. He was clearly doing a very, very good job. That shows in their results, like end of story. Like they were performing and playing really well. So yeah, unusual. And when I heard it, I was kind of taken aback, to be honest, at the timing of it. But look, the only hope is these girls are phenomenal players and that they've got really good leaders there. Like, you know, Lucy Mulhall has been around since 2013 or 14, huge experience. Stacey, Amy Lee. You've got other leaders there that maybe, you know, are young in terms of their age and how long they've been playing, but they're leaders in, you know, being able to put in performances on the pitch. So look, you just hope that they've got enough, you know, like experience and know-how to just to get over the line now, regardless of their coach. And I think this women's team, they've had a bit of chopping and changing since they've been playing. Even when Anthony Eddy was there, they would have had Anthony, and then at times then Stan McDowell would have come in, and they probably were a little bit used to that chopping and changing. So look, I think they're resilient in that sense. I think they'll be really resilient. I think they'll be able to just get on with it, and they'll take it. It is what it is. There's nothing those girls can do about it, unfortunately. All they can go out with is control. It's the whole cliche, we can only control, blah, blah, blah. We all know what the saying is, but that's what they'll have to focus on. And look, we wish them the best in that journey, because I think it'll be a huge thing for them. But yeah, like slightly unusual, we have to say. Yeah.
Qualification for an Olympic Games, though, as you pointed out, is very much a live possibility.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And I think it's like, for me, it was the reason I played sevens, because I like loved 15s, but I think for the, you know, you've got World Cups in 15s, but I think the draw for a lot of those players is to get to go to the Olympics and qualify. And we were very close in 2016, and like it's still something that I find difficult, you know, that like we didn't go, and I still would have regrets about that, and what could we have done differently, and we could have performed better, blah blah blah. So like I think it's a huge thing for these girls, and I think that's like their focus now at the moment. And not disrespectful, I don't think they'll be worried about playing Six Nations. I'm sure they'd like to come in if they get an opportunity, but I think that's their sole focus, and that's what it should be. It's important now for them, you know, to qualify. Important for the whole country.
Yeah. I think you were mad to get the Olympic rings tattoo, Ali, weren't you?
Oh well, I think I think, you see, I grew up as an athlete, a runner, and I think the Olympics is a huge thing in that. So yeah, I definitely would have got a Fiona if we qualified.
I don't think there's any statute of limitations. You could probably just get a small one and just say, you know, oh, we were close, you know.
Nearly.
Yeah.
No, that I just couldn't sit with that. That would be like, I'd feel like a fraud. Like, you know,
how about you get 4 of the rings and then and have like it's nearly there, you know.
Then it becomes completely different. What's that tattoo on?
Well, let's sit down. I've got a tale for you. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Fiona Hayes and Alison Miller on the Women's Six Nations show, brought to you with Vodafone, a proud sponsor of the Irish women's rugby team. We all belong to the team of us. Both of you, thank you.